Hello, 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 and welcome to, or welcome back to my ASMR channel. Thank you so much for being here today. We have a special guest sleeping in the background. It's my dog, Jackson. I hope that he stays deep in his slumber and does not wake up and disturb us. And then I'm also filming on my laptop. So the quality might be a little bit worse, but I hope that it's cozy and comforting. So, in this video, we will be reading a chapter from The Secret Garden. I showed this book in a previous video. It is one of my favorite stories. I read it probably over 100 times as a kid. But this is extra special because it is my grandmother's copy. I'm going to take it out of its cover. I always remove the covers of books when I read them. I think it's like a sensory thing. I hate when they slip and slide, slip and slide. I am sorry about the sirens. There's been so many of them today, and I've really struggled to find a quiet time to film. There hasn't really been one yet, so I hope you don't mind. Okay, so this is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett, illustrated by Tasha Tudor. And I'm not gonna start at the first chapter because it begins kind of slowly, and I want you to read the chapter where she discovers the garden for the first time, because I think that the descriptions are just so beautiful and vivid. But I want you to have context if you haven't ever read the story. So I'm just gonna give you a little rundown. So The Secret Garden is a story about kind of a neglected, spoiled, but deeply lonely girl named Mary Lennox, who lived in India with her parents until her parents died of, I think it was smallpox, but it might have been a different fever, actually. Might have been yellow fever. Either way, they die, and she is orphaned. And so she's sent to live with her reclusive and mysterious uncle at a manor in northern England. And when she arrives, initially really miserable. She just sees herself as a victim of life, and to be fair, she's suffered a really great loss. But I think the biggest tragedy of all is the fact that she's never been truly loved and cherished by anyone. And so she doesn't know how to truly love anyone in return. And that's something that she learns how to do throughout this story. I love the depiction of friendship in this story. But things really begin to change when Mary discovers a hidden locked garden, and she becomes determined to open it. So, by discovering this secret garden, Mary she discovers that life can be beautiful, both in nature and in humanity, because she falls in love with the garden, but she also develops friends, and they spend time together in the garden. And and basically Mary's life completely changes when she discovers the garden. And yeah, I don't want to ruin the story if you want to read it, so that's all I'm gonna say. But we will be starting out with the chapter where she is entering the garden for the first time. She has found the key, and she's walking into the garden for the first time. It was the sweetest, most mysterious looking place anyone could imagine. The high walls which shut it in were covered with the leafless stems of climbing roses, which were so thick that they were matted together. Mary Lennox knew that they were roses because she had seen a great many roses in India. All the ground was covered with grass of a wintry brown, and out of it grew clumps of bushes, which were surely rose bushes if they were alive. There were numbers of standard roses which had so spread their branches that they were like little trees. There were other trees in the garden, and one of the things which made the place look strangest and loveliest was the climbing roses that had run all over them and swung down long tendrils which made light swaying curtains. And here and there they had caught at each other or at a far-reaching branch, and had crept from one tree to another and made lovely bridges of themselves. There were neither leaves nor roses on them now, and Mary did not know whether they were dead or alive, but their thin gray or brown branches and sprays looked like a sort of hazy mantle spreading over everything. Walls, trees, and even brown grass, where they had fallen from their fastenings and run along the ground. It was this hazy tangle from tree to tree which made it all look so mysterious. Mary had thought it must be different from other gardens, which had not been left all by themselves so long, and indeed it was different from any other place she had ever seen in her life. "How still it is," she whispered. "How still." Then she waited a moment and listened at the stillness. The robin who had flown to his treetop was still as as all the rest. He did not even flutter his wings. He sat without stirring and looked at Mary. "No wonder it is still," she whispered. "I am the first person who has spoken here for 10 years. She moved away from the door, stepping as softly as if she were afraid of wakening someone. She was glad that there was grass under her feet and that her steps made no sounds. She walked under one of the fairy-like gray arches between the trees and looked up at the sprays and tendrils which formed them. "I wonder if they are all quite dead," she said. "Is it all a quite dead garden? I wish it weren't." If she had been Ben Weatherstaff, she could have told whether the wood was alive by looking at it, but she could only see that there were only gray or brown sprays and branches, and none showed any signs of even a tiny leaf bud anywhere. But she was inside the wonderful garden, and she could come through the door under the ivy any time she felt as if she had found a world of her own. The sun was shining inside the four walls in the high arch of blue sky over this particular piece of Misselthwaite seemed even more brilliant and soft than it was over the moor. The robin flew down from his treetop and hopped about or flew after her from one bush to another. He chirped a good deal and had a very busy air, as if he were showing her things. Everything was strange and silent, and she seemed to be 100 miles away from anyone, but somehow she did not feel lonely at all. All that troubled her was her wish that she knew whether all the roses were dead, or if perhaps some of them had lived and might put out leaves and buds as the weather grew warmer. She did not want it to be quite a dead garden. If it were quite an alive garden, how wonderful would it be, and what thousands of roses would grow on every side. Her skipping rope had hung over her arm when she came in, and after she had walked about for a while, she thought she would skip round the whole garden, stopping when she wanted to look at things. There seemed to have been grass paths here and there, and in one or two corners there were alcoves of evergreens with stone seats or moss-covered flowers urns in them. As she came near the second of these alcoves, she stopped skipping. There had once been a flower bed in it, and she thought she saw something sticking out of the black earth. Some sharp little pale green points. She remembered what Ben Weatherstaff had said, and she knelt down to look at them. Yes, they are tiny growing things, and they might be crocuses or snowdrops or daffodils, she whispered. She bent very close to them and sniffed the fresh scent of the damp earth. She liked it very much. "Perhaps there are some other ones coming up in other places," she said. "I will go all over the garden and look." She did not skip, but walked. She went slowly and kept her eyes on the ground. She looked in the old border beds and among the grass, and after she had gone round trying to miss nothing, she had found ever so many more sharp, pale green points, and she had become quite excited again. "It isn't quite a dead garden," she cried out softly to herself. "Even if the roses are dead, there are other things alive. Even if the roses are dead, there are other things alive." that seems profound. She did not know anything about gardening, but the grass seemed so thick in some places where the green points were pushing their way through that she thought they did not seem to have enough room to grow. She searched about until she found a rather sharp piece of wood and knelt down and dug and weeded out the weeds and grass until she made nice little clear places around them. Now they look as if they can breathe, she said after she had finished with the first ones. I am going to do ever so many more. I'll do all that I can see. If I haven't time today, I can come tomorrow. She went from place to place and dug and weeded and enjoyed herself so immensely that she was led on from bed to bed and into the grass under the trees. The exercise made her so warm that she first threw her coat off and then her hat, and without knowing it, she was smiling down onto the grass and the pale green points all the time. The robin was tremendously busy. He was very much pleased to see gardening begun on his own estate. He had often wondered at Ben Weatherstaff, where gardening is done, all sorts of delightful things to eat are turned up with the soil. I love how we are getting the robin's inner monologue right now. I forgot about this. Now here was this new kind of creature who was not half of Ben's size, and yet had the sense to come into his garden and begin at once. Ben Weatherstaff is the gardener, by the way. Mistress Mary worked in her garden until it was time to go to her midday dinner. In fact, she was rather late in remembering, and when she put on her coat and hat and picked up her skipping rope, she could not believe that she had been working 2 or 3 hours. She had actually been happy all the time, and dozens of the tiny pale green points were to be seen in cleared places, looking twice as cheerful as they had looked before when the grass and weeds had been smothering them. I shall come back this afternoon, she said, looking all round her new kingdom, and speaking to the trees and the rose bushes as if they heard her. Then she ran lightly across the grass, pushed open the slow old door, and slipped through it under the ivy. She had such red cheeks and such bright eyes and ate such a large dinner that Martha was delighted. 2 pieces of meat and 2 helpings of rice pudding, she said. Mother will be pleased when I tell her that's what Skippin' Rope has done for thee. In the course of her digging with her pointed stick, Mistress Mary had found herself digging up a sort of white root, rather like an onion. She had put it back in its place and patted the earth carefully down on it, and just now she wondered if Martha could tell her what it was. Martha, she said, what are those white roots that look like onions? They're bulbs, answered Martha. Lots of spring flowers grow from them. Their very little ones are snowdrops and crocuses, and the big ones are narcissuses and jonquils and daffodils. The biggest of all is lilies and purple flags. They are nice. Dickens got a whole lot of them planted out in our garden. Does Dickon know about all of them? Asked Mary, a new idea taking possession of her. Our Dickon can make a flower grow out of a brick walk. Mother said he just whispers things to the ground. Do bulbs live a long time? Would they live years and years if no one helped them? Inquired Mary anxiously. There are things that help themselves, said Martha. That's why poor folk can afford to have them. If you don't trouble them, most of them will work away underground for a lifetime and spread out. There's a place in the park woods here where there's snowdrops by the thousands. They're the prettiest sight in Yorkshire when the spring comes. No one knows when they were first planted. I wish the spring was here now, said Mary. I want to see all the things that grow in England. She had finished her dinner and gone to her favorite seat on the earth rug. I wish I had a little spade, she said. What does thou want a spade for? Asked Martha. Are thou gonna take to diggin'? I must tell thy mother that too. Mary looked, and I think when Martha's talking about, she means her mother, because Mary's mother is dead. Just for clarification. Mary looked at the fire and pondered a little. She must be careful if she meant to keep her secret kingdom. She wasn't doing any harm, but if Mr. Craven found out about the open door, he would be fearfully angry and would get a new key and lock it up forever. She really could not bear that. This is such a big, lonely place, she said slowly, as if she were turning matters over in her mind. The house is lonely, and the park is lonely, and the gardens are lonely. So many places seem shut up. I never did many things in India, but there were more people to look at. And sometimes bands playing, and my ayah told me stories. There is no one to talk to here, except you and Ben Weatherstaff. And you have to do your work, and Ben Weatherstaff won't speak to me often. I thought if I had a little spade, I could dig somewhere as he does, and I might make a little garden if you would give me some seeds. So, that was not all of the chapter, but if you would like me to read more, just let me know, because I would be happy to. I hope that you are doing well wherever you are in the world. I am sending